And I think that, maybe the other aspect is, what about the suppliers and your collaborative, partners on the outside? I mean, don't we need to, have connection there so that a supplier, let's say for instance, I've placed the purchase order out. I've got a key supplier, and I'm handling their inbound movements. I need to be able to coordinate at appointment setting levels, at assigning the carrier, and share some of that information.
Right.
So we think some of that structure come into place.
Yes,
a lot of that structure has come into place, and a lot of it has been driven by the larger companies in the supply chains. In class I call them the 800-pound gorillas. Whatever the 800-pound gorilla wants, he gets, and a lot of times that's that they ride herd over their supply chain and make sure that the coordination happens.
Yes, so this, dare we say the Walmart factor?
Well, Walmart, Intel in the computer industry,
right,
as another 800-pound gorilla. I mean, there's in almost every industry there's somebody so dominant that they can dictate terms. I mean, Hewlett-Packard to some extent,
sure,
in many of its businesses can dictate terms. So if they decide to collaborate, collaboration's going to happen.
Are the performance metrics being shared then across the supplier relationship?
Yes, they are. They're being shared.
I think the best examples where I've seen is going back to what is collaboration's been around for a long time. So
right,
how do you successfully develop a collaborative relationship? And really where I've seen the most success is where the 800-pound gorilla works with maybe 5 of its key suppliers, let's say, and they say, let's map our entire process. How do our two companies touch each other? From the ordering standpoint, what are all the information flows? What are all the document flows? Who are all the people that have to interface with each other within our companies? They map all that out, and then they look again, perhaps applying Lean and Six Sigma principles, and say, where are there opportunities that do we really need this piece of document? Do we really need X A to go to B then C? Why don't we just go A to C? So they look at that whole opportunity. They redesign the whole process of how the two companies, and then they define the metrics that are of it, that support that new collaborative process, and then they identify how they're going to share the risks and rewards. And I think so it's a very methodical process to succeed.
And there's a lot of times they'll exchange duties. For example, some might take on the management of the supply chain, and somebody else may take on purchasing responsibilities that they didn't have before, because there's an area of expertise in one company in purchasing, and somebody else is better in logistics. And that does happen. I mean, I've seen some cases of that.
Now, this is a lot of point-to-point interconnection between your whole network. How is this happening? You can't build an individual IT infrastructure for the exchange of this kind of visibility and performance data. Are we getting any standards around communications of visibility and these kinds of performance metrics between players? Where's that heading? I get some smiles. Not an easy question, is it? Yeah.
Well, I think you're seeing standards, being certainly there's things like RosettaNet and the high tech arena. There's Cydex in the chemical industry.
Right.
So each industry is trying to develop standards around the different business processes, and logistics being one of them. You have in the carrier community, in the air freight, you have IATA, kind of trying to move into e-freight system, trying to get into quote unquote paperless or paper-free type of environment. I think the problem is that there really is no standard. I mean, there's a driving consensus on this is what we should all be doing is it's been very, very difficult. I think ultimately, because of the way supply chains are becoming much more dynamic and the regulatory challenges, not only here in the States but around the world, I think ultimately the pain is going to get so much that companies are going to say, we really have to solve this. And I truly believe, my perspective, if I were to make a prediction, is there will be an independent entity that will serve as the medium to help drive the standard, and everyone kind of links to that body. Or there'll probably be multiple of these bodies out there to help drive the standards in the business process.
Well, for visibility at a physical level as well, or it's more at the the standards enforcing aspect of it?
Yeah, I think it's from an information level. I mean, I think it's this concept of a logistics utility.
Yes.
And let the utility, however you want to define that type of business model, or whether it's an on-demand network, whatever it is, let that utility, handle the difficulties involved with, complying with the different regulations, with helping to define the standards and ensure compliance to standards, have that entity be responsible for data quality management, things of that nature, and let companies, the individual parties, the manufacturers, the retailers, the freight forwarders focus on their core competencies, which is really executing on the processes.
Yep. Well, very interesting. Very interesting. Any thoughts on that kind of a concept?
Well, just the one thought I have is on the surface it looks like it makes a lot of sense, and it does make a lot of sense, but the execution of that is very difficult. Take for example, we talked about metrics, and supplier and a receiver both decide we want our shipment to be on time. Now ask them what on time means, and
5-minute window, 15-minute window, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've done some research around this and found it's all over the map. It could be anywhere from the 5-minute window to the same day, the same week.
Right.
And so, and any collaboration, when you start to develop these kind of joint metrics, you really have to drill down and define what you mean by them.